I love you, oh, I love you. Now let me count the ways. You just don't know. Like Tony Braxton says, a journey to happily ever after is like a crazy maze. Circles and circles, searching seizures. It was just all a phase. But you found me while I was sitting on my throne, Indian style, meditating, elevating, divinely co-creating, activating, visualating of our love procreating. Shazam, now here you are, here I am. No man's separation is righteous reparation. It is what it is, so it is, and so it shall be. Because of faith we prostrate in eternal ecstasy. Yes, in eternal ecstasy. Your love, it set me free. Yes. So it is, so shall it be. This is eternal. So this Sunday school session is entirely sponsored by Spirit and the most supreme source of all, because I dismissed the nudge several times to share on this topic. It's one thing to have to come up in a reading, to have it come up in a reading and channel the energy accordingly, but it's a whole nother thing to put spirit to pen and paper and read it out loud. It's the difference between hitting it and quitting it and making sensual, passionate, sweet love. I'm stalling, as you can see, just to clarify the topic, let alone undress the subject. The Lover's card is what initially prompted me to explore and express some ideals on sacred union, divine partnerships, kingdom spouses, marriage, in a word. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Sunday school session. Now, today is quite a unique expression, I would say, because first of all, I started out very differently, and I started with part of a rhyme of my own called Vow Vibes, and it's something that I wrote some time ago. Now, obviously, it's prophetic because, well, you don't know this, but I'm not, what you can see, but not that means exactly anything for sure. But no, I'm not married, to put it plainly, which is why I kind of have distanced myself from this topic that was just nudging on my spirit really all week long. I am always in moving meditation about what the next session is going to be. Just so you know, when it comes to the cards, it's easy to just sit down and see in real time how the message comes up. It's actually quite exciting for me. But when it comes to sharing in this format, where, as I said, me writing is a bit more intimate, quite honestly, of a share than any other way that I express myself, and to share the innermost thoughts of me between myself and spirit that I feel speaks to and through me, is a little bit more anxiety inducing than anything else. So when it comes to what I'm going to express for the next week, my ears, my heart, my soul, all my senses are open to whatever that nudge may be. But this week, when I felt that it was love, and it kept coming up in so many different ways, I'm like, really? Like, I don't know about that. All right, I'm open, and I'm listening, I'm waiting to hear, like, okay, that topic is so vast, it's so expansive. What do you want me to say? Where are we going with this? And then, the Lover's card was a nudge, and then Say Yes to the Dress was a nudge that in many different ways. And then I'm seeing a lot of it coming up even through other channels and other readers that I like and that don't usually speak on the topic either, and other little subtle ways, me even stumbling across this message. This is in my other notebook, and me stumbling across this when I was just kind of flipping through, really in regards to my moon message, the other day and just tracking those dates that I expressed in terms of the other eclipses and how different things have unfolded in my life, and lo and behold, I come across this and some other expressions in my notebook that directed me to a time and space where, well, I guess it still is, where love was the centric force, and it most certainly still is. So, needless to say, with me still stalling even in this moment, before I got the nudge that it was going to be love and specifically commitment in marriage, because that's what it really, dwindled down to, it streamlined down to marriage, like serious commitment, which is even more of a tough topic for me because, as I said, that's not something that I have any specific experience in or with, just my own impressions and expressions and ideals. But before I got the topic, I heard off the cuff, meaning no notes this week, just channel, just speak freely. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I didn't write anything, but then I tried to sit down and see what would flow. And this is as far as I got, to the point where it's like, okay, now you ready to trust me? You ready to do what I asked you to do, which is just speak freely. I didn't tell you to write nothing down this week. I just want you to share. So here we are, and welcome to this hopefully not a shit show of a Sunday school session. So basically where I'm at with it is I started with the rhyme. It's a part of a song, but I guess you can call it poetry in this moment in time, about vows and expressing your love to another person. And the lover's card being one of the most expressive energies in the deck in regards to divine partnerships, true love, so to speak, divine unions, twin flames as it's expressed if you subscribe to that, kingdom spouse, sacred union, all of that good stuff. It's the expression of two people that in the most supreme frequency have expressed themselves personally to be in a position to be one with themselves, that they are whole and complete just as they are, and that energetic frequency is a magnetic force for a mirror match of someone that gets to co-create or procreate in that regard. And, honestly, the daunting task for me in speaking about it is because it's such an intimate topic, even for me to express myself. I mean, obviously, the elephant in the room, well, for those that may or may not know, my stats is, that I have a child and that I am 41, as a matter of fact. Wait, am I 41 yet? I don't know, almost. That's crazy because they say you start to forget your age the older you get, but not yet. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm on my way. And I've never been married. I've been in some committed relationships, but I've been proposed to actually a couple of times, but I've never quite taken that step or made that leap over the broom, so to speak. And I'm very much so in the energetic space now where I'm completely open to the potential of divine partnership, even more so than I've ever been before, but I probably have more conditions regarding how that gets to be than ever before, obviously, because I'm a little bit wiser and older now and I have more responsibility to consider. And I have a different value for partnership, whether it be, when I'm saying marriage and commitment, it's no, disrespect at all to those that don't idealize the marriage in a contractual form, meaning actually a piece of paper, a marriage certificate that says we are married. It could be two people in sacred union that have made a devout commitment to one another and uphold that contract, whatever it may be. I have respect for that as well. As a matter of fact, I'm in a place where I still don't know which one, if one takes precedence over the other, really and truly. It will have to come down to whatever my partner and I really decide makes divine sense between us, because anyone that I'm in a committed partnership with that is intentional about being there, to even entertain the topic, there will have had to have been some checks and balances, that have been, that ultimately have been contextualized, for lack of a better term right now, before there even needs to be a question, if it's even a thought of whether or not to marry or not to marry on paper, that being the question, then we've already passed some great tests and made some significant establishment in the commitment as it is. So, that's something I'm still on the fence, and maybe perhaps that could, I'm open to this being something, so intimate that it may be opening up ideas for myself as to where I actually am, and perhaps where there may be a block or a disconnect in the materialization of marriage as I desire it to be, or commitment in general as I desire it to be. I've been through quite a lot, and I know I'm not the only one, so this is definitely no pity party. But in terms of relationships, intimately and platonically, I've been healing in a healing space for maybe over, at this point, at least the past 3 years, maybe more, just kind of healing some wounds in that regard, and still going strong in that department. But I'm at the point now where I feel much more open to the readiness. I don't know if I have the preparedness, and that's perhaps why I'm here today, because I do believe that spiritually and, materially, marriage is a very sacred and impactful expression, to have an energy such as this, two people that are on the same page, that are committed to the best of one another, to pushing each other closer to the light, more into the light, to expand one another, to support each other's desires and visions, and to forge some foundation of integrity and trust and honor, to not have to be completely solo dependent on your own supply of that, I think is a wonderful gift and a wonderful blessing, especially when it's done well and it's healthy. I think it's even better to not have it at all, if it's not healthy, and to rely on self and stay married to the spirit, if anything, than to have it and it not be some version of that, or some reflection of all those things that I just said. And I believe that in the spiritual sense, like, divine partnerships are, perhaps always have been, but definitely are now almost being lifted back up into the light, where they took a great hit over the years, where I feel like marriage has been disparaged and taken for granted. People have grown to be fearful of it based on their own experiences, and also based on the interference of outside forces that know the power of a sacred union and would want to impede on that power, or diminish that influence, and ultimately swap it out for some other codependent vibrations and frequencies that would have you ultimately more dependent on superficial satisfactions and affirmations and foundations and securities than what it would be between energies such as this that are under one solid commitment under God, let's just say, but whatever that energy means to you, you know. So there's all these interferences that have been happening with sacred unions to keep them, first of all, to destroy them, then to build them back up under some false pretenses of what these propped up projections of what marriage should be, and then dismantling the concept altogether, where now the younger generation is, less prone to the sanctity of it at all because of what they've experienced and what they've seen, and the new infusion of independence as it is, which is very valuable in some regard, but the balance of it all, this expression of the Lover's card is someone that is in fact independent, but that is committed to be in union and commitment as well. That's actually independent enough to be valuable in partnership with someone else. Otherwise, that's part of the recipe for disaster, for why they usually don't work out in some way, shape, or form. So, I feel like that there's a regeneration of the institution of marriage and commitment and partnership in the most pronounced and official way, and in the most energetic and spiritual way, because the Spirit is looking to use that force of love where the two cover each other as a way to pronounce the possibilities of a high value of life experience to others. Like, consider your power couples of the world. Of course, the one that rolls off the tongue, of course, is Jay-Z and Beyonce. That's the most popular persona of marriage that is most popularized, and it's been valuable in many ways to give an ideal of what it might look like to be two powerful people coming together, doing their own thing, but together they're a force, and they ultimately are individually household names and collectively even more so. And both of their personas and their influences have done a great deal for one another. One has definitely helped the other reach certain expanses in their influence just as much as the other has. I think they both have won for the most part when it comes to the glamour of partnership, and particularly power partnership. But there's a spiritual aspect, and I don't know the ins and outs of their true foundation. I think honestly, for two people to make it look so good for so long, there must be something of value there. I personally really want to believe that it's not just business, and it's not just a well-oiled machine and an arrangement. I want to believe that there's something real, like a current of love that still flows there, between the two of them, and that's how they keep it together. Even though it may be hard to do so, they keep it together. But there's something else that, is kind of contrary to how they lead, how they express their love. There's a new expression of partnership that I believe is being elevated and exalted. And that's those couples that actually, because if you consider it like Jay-Z and Beyonce, you don't really know much. For a long time, they didn't let you know anything about you didn't even know they was married for a long time at first. Well, I think it was pretty secret for a while. The ceremony was definitely secret. You didn't see anything behind the scenes, and then they marketed it as a part of the show, and so then you got to see little glimpses of their lives. And also, as the tides begin to change even more, where people almost demand to see the behind the curtains of celebrity life because of, reality and social media as it is. So they begin to kind of drop the veil more and more. But for the most part, you really don't hear them talk much about what it takes to be that power couple. What it really entails to keep such a thing going, whatever it is, for so long. And then you have the adverse of that in Will and Jada, for instance, where they have had this facade, and they were very vocal in a lot of ways about what it took to keep their partnership, what it took, what they fed to us, and in any event, as to what kept the fire going and what kept them together, only to find out years later that much of it was a facade, and that, who knows what's in Jada's book, because apparently not many people are reading it, but I'm sure she's spilling the tea on talk shows. She's probably spilling even more tea in the book about what was really going on in the inner workings of their marriage and that commitment that they made to one another. So it's like, I'm saying this to say that I'm feeling that the Spirit has really been doing a great work on divine people, those that have been leading with their spirit, leading with the charge of what they feel energetically guided to do organically, not following celebrity, not looking to be in any limelight for any superficial costs. I feel like those are the energies that are getting ready to be exalted in a powerful way because of the pureness of their presence. And then consider those individuals that are in partnerships, such as the lovers that have synergized themselves on their own spiritually and now have found that sacred union. Those are the partnerships that are going to be most impactful. There's a changing of the guard in celebrity versus star power, celebrity influence versus star power, where you may even, as we're already seeing, as I said with Will and Jada, there's going to be more of an exposure, perhaps for the good. I feel like it's more to dismantle these facades of what marriage is and what it isn't, and to really expose, the disparities of trying to paint a picture, whether it be in the celebrity world or in your real life, of something that just isn't so, and how detrimental that can be to your spirit and to your physical being, to every aspect of your life experience. And in that regard, and that balancing act that's happening universally, is going to be exalting those couples that are leading more honestly with the truth of their love, where, like I said, you got the Jay-Z and Beyonce, where you don't really see much behind the curtain, that you're going to actually see, there's going to be much more of a spotlight on those that are in commitment and willing to share the secret sauce. Those are the energies, less of the creative couples that are just doing it for the gram or for YouTube, for likes, for subscribes, for their branding, for their business collaborations, for the clout, you know what I mean? And there's more of the exaltation of pure passion that is on the rise. Now, why I'm feeling called to speak about that in this time, I'm not 100% sure, but I know that with the Lovers card, for sure and for certain, as I always like to point out, before it's about the two, it's about the one. It's about being able to cultivate independence and wholeness and healing within yourself before you can successfully interchange that energy with anyone else, and let alone magnify it in a partnership, let alone then express it. So it's interesting because amidst all of the things that were coming at me, to really compel me to move into this message, just before I got ready to start writing and trying to get myself together. Maybe that's kind of what took me out of the energy to write. Is it kind of mind fucked me a little bit. I watched this one. I wasn't even really completely watching. I was just kind of listening a little bit. And he doesn't even usually talk about relationships or anything like that at all. But for whatever reason, he just went on this rant, and then most of the message turned into this idea that you're not ready. You're not ready for long-term commitment. There's still some healing you need to do, or you're not as ready as you think. And it was all these warning flags that he was throwing up energetically about what you need to do, because this love is ready for you, but there's still some things you need to do to be prepared for it. And if it comes in and you're still in this position, you're ultimately going to lose it. It was just all of this stuff. And I was like, first of all, he never even talks about love and damn sure not marriage and long-term commitment like that. But then for me to get hit with this right before I'm about to actually express something that I'm already vulnerable to, and that's a bit uncomfortable for me. Not because it's an uncomfortable topic for me to consider myself. I think anyway, I'm pretty clear on what my heart desires. But it kind of just threw me off balance and added to my resistance just a bit, even though at this point it's you're too far, you ain't turning back now. This is what it is. But I feel like there's even a synergy in that. I know that he personally, and I would dare not say his name because I love and respect him so much, that it has nothing to do with, the message may be what it is, and and for whomever it's for, maybe even for me perhaps, to reconsider some ideals about my readiness really and truly. But the way that I embodied it, it was almost like a trigger. You know what I mean? How could it be that after all this time, literally time and energy spent working on myself, that I would still not be ready to be in partnership? And I'm picking it up right now. I wasn't even intending to touch on that at all, but like I said, this message is sponsored by Spirit, so receive it as you will. That he almost embodied the adverse energy as it is, that would want to push back on individuals such as this in a lover's state of mind, that are open, that are ready. And that's the adverse energy and how it kind of plays on the psyche, as a matter of fact, not just in the way of love, but in anything. People are looking to jumpstart or start, be regenerated in many different ways, certainly not just in an intimate perspective, professionally and creatively and so on and so forth. And that kind of is the energy of the adverse opposition, to almost make you begin to question everything that you have cultivated within yourself to this point, as if it was all for nothing. Well, if not now, then when? Because I've never felt better, never felt more content with myself, never felt more open to the idea of intimacy with another, never felt more understanding of who I am and what I have to bring to the table, and what my projections of the future are, and how that can align with someone else in a powerful way. I've never felt more cognizant of my own consciousness, than I do right now. So to have encountered that right before this moment, I think is probably the biggest piece of all to speak to at this time. And it, again, not him, because like I said, I know how to take the meat and spit out the bones, and I hope everyone that listens to any spiritualist, no matter what their come from is, preacher in the pulpit or tarot card reader, channeler, spiritual teacher, whatever you fancy, you have to understand that this is a personal perspective that a human is conceptualizing to then transmit. So you can only take from it what truly belongs to you and leave the rest. But what I will say is what that is giving me, even in this moment, is to be careful of projections that ultimately put you in a position to be in doubt, to make you feel like you're not in the position to receive all that you have positioned yourself to do so at this point in time. You can take the nuggets as you will. You can consider that perhaps the timing of the thing is still up to the divine, but I feel like that's relenting to universal order as it is without making absorbing an impression on yourself that could potentially delay that timing or delay you from being in alignment on that timeline, which is how I kind of felt about it, and it coming from somebody who's typically so unsuspecting, who I do value very much. I think it was significant, even the timing of it all, for me to be in a position to express that warning even right now, because it's such a sensitive and tender time for those that are harvesting from hopes and dreams that have been sown in the ground for lifetimes, at least for their whole lifetime. So it's like having sown so many wonderful seeds in the ground and then having someone come along and tell you need to torch the ground. Not torching it for you, because they can't actually, his words couldn't do any more to me than I would allow them to do, but to actually somebody like an inspector, coming around and saying, you know what, this is all illegal, you're going to have to burn all these crops and start over again. Like, what? Like, are you kidding me, sir? I've been growing these crops for years. I've been watering this soil. I've been tilling this ground. I've been picking the weeds, fertilizing, whatever the hell you do in farming. I'm always talking about farming like I know, and I don't, but hopefully one day. But, it's like equivalent to that. And it's a very intimate thing, and I think that's why Spirit pushed me out to just speak from the heart in this time, because it's probably one of the most vulnerable topics that I could ever speak on, because of my past experience and because of my present projection of what my heart's true desire is at this point. I actually have never really wanted partnership so much in all my life, and it's not due to age, it's not that, because in a lot of ways I'm still very content with how I'm growing individually, but because I understand myself more in that growth process, and I'm so much more open and willing to understand and support someone else's, and I see so much more value because of the cultivating I've done. I see so much more value in myself to actually bring to the table. And and I also see so much more that of things that I'm worthy to receive, where I didn't always have that full vision before. In a lot of ways, I knew what I had to offer, but I wasn't always clear on what I was worthy to receive. And so now, having that full scope, it makes me even more excited about the possibilities and the prospects than ever before. So to have that energy come along at the most opportune and inopportune moment at the same time, I can't go without saying that spirit is roaming around. And as I said, it came to me in the most vulnerable way, kind of like poking at the most tender part of my of my being spiritually at this time. And that's maybe how it gets to present, and from such an unassuming foe, so to speak, in opposition, that I never would have seen it coming. And so given the energy that we're in, even with this new moon and the lunar eclipse that just passed us yesterday, the Scorpio season, which can be dark in nature to kind of dredge up a lot of things under the surface and the psyche that may have gone unnoticed or undetected, or just, you know, ignored, perhaps even, I don't know. It's an important time for you to really be clear about what's true to you and what is just the bones. You know, what, if we're talking about partnership here, if we're talking about marriage, because I can stretch marriage beyond, as the Lovers projects, I can stretch it beyond just a partnership with, you know, contemporary, conventional partnership one to another. This is about a commitment to your divine calling, which comes before the union, right? As I keep making a point to say, this is about your commitment to yourself, moreover than even a partnership. And if something could come along and drop a little seed of doubt and second guessing in my spirit on something that hasn't even happened yet, let alone something that, you know, is in effect, like perhaps you're already in a partnership, or you're already working on a project, you're already committed to your purpose in some regard, you know, you're already devoted to some divine path. This is like that prime time for the adverse energy to try to slip in and whisper a little white lie to you. And I'm calling it a little white lie because the truth of the matter is that in some of the aspects of what the reader that I'm talking about was saying, it is cause for a pause to consider, you know, well, you know, am I X, Y, and Z? Is that this mind space that I'm cultivating truly, you know, because it's one thing to just speak generally like, yeah, I'm ready for love, I'm open for love, I'm ready for purpose, I'm ready to, you know, like to just proclaim it. And it's another thing to actually be in the process of the action taken, you know, or in the, how can I really say it? Like, it's one thing to make the proclamation, but it's another to really be taking those, to be in the position for the reception, I guess, is the best way I can say it. You know, to say, yeah, bring it all, but you have no space for it. You know, like consider in the most practical sense, like you're ready for love, but you have no space on your calendar. You have no space in your home. If there was to be some cohabitation, you have no consideration of what it would be to incorporate another person's time or their visions into your schedule. You know, you have no food to, you couldn't even make a meal for two if you wanted to, you know, just simply saying that, you know, that's silly, but you know what I mean. So there are some things that you could consider, you know, practically, that would be food for thought and that may ground you sensibly about the concept versus the conception, you know, or I should say the consideration versus the conception of that ideal. But what's subtle about the adverse energy is it can take that inference and implode it, because it's something that is tender in your spirit or because it's a sensitive topic, imploded in such a way that in itself would deter you from the readiness and from being in the proper mind space to maintained that spirit of manifestation. Because I think the reason why I'm saying this is because it's like a tug of war going on in the spirit right now, where many of us have our ideals about what the future gets to look like, or at least our idea of it. We have the big picture view, everything, perfectly placed in it. It doesn't mean that, the best of us know that everything isn't necessarily going to come out exactly as we painted the picture, that actually we leave some room on the campus for something even more expansive, right? Hopefully. But to have someone, as I said, come and like whitewash the canvas, and tell you that, nah, actually that's not due to you, is a very dangerous vulnerability right now, because it's like our grips are in the thing, you know what I mean? So it's like it's equivalent to, like I said, with the tug of war, where you almost can't let go. Once that whistle blows, or whatever the signal is that the game has begun, which for most of us, we've been in a tug of war and we didn't even know it, but now there's an awareness, there's a self-awareness of knowing the battle that we are in for our souls, for our independence, for our sheer happiness and satisfaction in life. And we've dug our heels into the ground, and we begin to really like bear down with all of our might on pulling those manifestations in, those desires, those wishes, those hopes, those dreams that, it was just a simple little game before. And now when you feel that tug on the rope, it gets serious, because nobody wants to be facing the dirt, right? And that's between you and none else but the adverse spirit. No other person, place, or thing, no matter how they present themselves. It's the adverse spirit that tries to actually activate within you, especially when all else fails around you, to make you almost self-sabotage, to give up, to loosen up that rope just a bit, just enough so it can pull you on the other side and your face is in the mud. You know what I mean? Or God forbid, like what was that movie? The Asian movie where where the tug of war was far more fatal than that. Like the team actually fell to their death. What was that movie? Damn, I love that movie. It was really good. Well, it was actually a series. It was really good on Netflix. I know you know what I'm talking about. I can hear the music in my head right now, but I wish it would come to me real quick. Forget it. But anyway, it's like the fight of our lives happening right now. And the only reason why I'm assuming why marriage was the forefront of this talk, because I don't even think it's centrically about marriage. It's about anything that you feel an alignment with, an affinity for. It just happens to be what is intimately idealized for me. So maybe it needed to pull on those heartstrings a bit, and for me to have that encounter to be able to express this in this way. That energy wants you to let go. It wants you to think for a second, like, man, I'm too weak. I can't. There's no way I can pull this over. They're stronger than us. They're bigger than us. They're more ruthless than us. They want this more, and I don't have the strength. I don't have what it takes. I don't have the creativity. I'm not, I don't make enough money. I don't have the talent. I'm not creative enough. I don't have the experience. Talk about relationships. I don't have the experience for a commitment such as this. Or God forbid, there's still some ideas about yourself and security that you're in question about, that make you feel like you wouldn't even be desirable for such a thing as marriage. Like, who would want to spend the rest of their life with me? You know what I mean? That type of thing. Just something so subtle as one person, easing a finger off the rope. You take your finger off the trigger just for a minute, to give yourself a little relief, like that, allow yourself to contemplate on that ideal, that what do you call it? That ideal of challenge or opposition for just a second. And before you know it, it weakens the whole force of your resistance, of that wall that you built up, that strength you built up for such a time as this, for just this game, knowing, that has been built up in you even over time from a spiritual perspective. You trained all your life for this one moment to finally, win it all, take it all home, and you allow one word to pierce through that could just allow you to crumble. I feel like I'm supposed to be saying this, even though this is quite uncomfortable for me to be speaking in this regard, honestly, right now, because I feel much more comfortable in this setting when I have my notes and I feel more structured and I don't just think I'm just like babbling and things like that. But I feel like the biggest takeaway, and if there's more to say, then I'll see you next Sunday, hopefully with notes. Maybe this was just my challenge and my charge to the intimacy of the experience and the communion with Spirit. Because if we think about it, that's what it calls for most, for us to not be inhibited to the ego and by pride, to just express, fully and completely, purely who we are in whatever regard we're looking to gain the most of, whether it be in partnership, whether it be in business, whether it be in creativity, in whatever expression of force that you are designed to do. There's a level of intimacy that is required for that thing to really operate in the fullest capacity that would make an impact, such as a star-powered couple or even a celebrity couple would make. Like I said, even with Jay-Z and Beyonce, they lowered the veil a little bit more and started letting people in. Now, we don't know if we're being let into the real, but they let us into the reality that they wanted to share, that feels real in most regards as to who they truly are as a couple. And that calling is unified across the board. I think we probably may even see even more of them, in the next few years or so, as the cosmic client is kind of drawing it out of all of us to just be naked and unafraid, to really drop the act, drop the veil, cut the facade, cut the crap, and just be who you are unapologetically. For those of us that are not contractually bound to be anything or anyone else, we got it easy because we have the luxury to just live life as we feel guided and called to do so. And ultimately, we're being the examples for the celebrities, more or less, that are now following suit. And it's all for us to just disseminate the distraction of pride and ego, so that if there's really not much to put on the act for, like if you're operating in the capacity of who you are and I am, then I can't judge you and you can't judge me. You know what I mean? Nobody can truly judge when we're all being real, because there's really no point of comparison. It's just all uniqueness on the board. So I kind of lost my train of thought of where I was going with that. But basically, I think it comes down to being fortified in your foundation of truth. Whatever it is that is crystallizing right now creatively is the evidence of what you've had faith for, of what you've hoped for, what you've called into existence in some way, shape, or form. And like I've said many times before, a lot of us have been declaring and decreeing for so long that the actualization of that wish, that hope, that dream may even be a little bit shocking to fulfill or to receive. And it may induce or incite us to want to go back into our shell, want to go back and hide, or, put more clothes on, as opposed to them being literally bare and all. When I feel the more expressive you can be in your nakedness and your purity, not truly nakedness, but in the purest form of your energetic force, the more impact that you will make outside of yourself, and the more of an influence you'll even have on your internal force. Like you'll find yourself magnifying what you've been working for even more so from the inside out than what you intended to create in the first place. When you release yourselves from the obligations, the personifications, and the appearances of whatever the ideal is, because I can't even name one thing, because there's so many things outside of truth, but there really is only one truth, right? The reality, I guess, the appearances of reality. So yeah, so that's that. And so what I was saying, what I do remember kind of where my thought was going, is that I'm literally like sweating here, and that is the thing, it's calling us out of our comfort zone, for me to hide behind my pretty little words, and being able to really like control every aspect of what I'm going to say. And I write in pencil so I can erase, I can add a thing here or there, and then present it to you just as clearly and concise as as if it was meant to be. You know what I mean? Like, it's clear and concise and to the point. But the expression of creative force isn't always that I don't know what's the right word is. It's not always that pretty, I guess I should say. It's not always that structured and that ordered and regulated. Sometimes you have to be okay with it not necessarily feeling safe and secure, and not feeling as contained. It's not that contained is what I really want to say. With things not being as contained and controlled as you would like for them to be. For you, perhaps not being as contained and controlled as you would like to be. And I know now that the push, dare I say nudge, it was more like a shove to speak in this way today, was to push me out of my comfort zones to make the point, and the opposition that came up just before was also to make the point that just in the moment where you're in your most vulnerable and independent state is when you may be met with that opposing force that can only speak to the triggers in you, because to another person that message might have meant or felt differently. But in the space and time that I was in, it was like I said, perfect and most imperfect timing for me to hear him say the things that he was saying. And then you want me to be empowered to speak about divine partnerships, of which I am not in at this moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, what are we doing here? But exactly the point. And I should correct myself to say that I absolutely am in, because I'm already in the state of ready partnership, and I know that energetic force has already aligned with me in an intangible space, and now it's just me being in the position to receive it materially. So there's that correction there. And that's the idea with everything that we're manifesting. We already possess that thing, that identity, that reality, that object, the word, what is the word? I can't think of the word, but we've already possessed the thing, whatever the thing is, that objective, that ideal outcome, it's already within our being, because we've already positioned ourselves to be a magnet for that force. So as long as we are, like I said, and here's it's back to that tug of war moment. When we allow ourselves to take our hand off the rope for a second, like almost as if we're not already winning and have not already won the prize, is when we fall short into the mud. The idea, that's why it's such a delicate time for manifestation, because the intention that we're able to hold on to is what's going to make all the difference. For there to be a second guess and what we already know to be true because we called it into existence is what causes the delay, is what puts it off a little bit farther, because it's your spirit telling the universe that this is something that you're still in waiting for, as opposed to embodying the reality of it in real time. So there lies the tenderness of really protecting your energetic force, and again, eating the meat and spitting out the bones of anything that's projected to you, and maintaining that vibration of presence and everything that you're creating. It being presently among you, presently a part of you, and you presently in the midst of it. Okay? So yeah, I think I beat the horse enough at this point. I don't even know. I probably won't even watch this back myself because I still feel a bit cringy about it. But I hope that you get some of what I'm saying here. You know, that this is the season to be naked and unafraid, to do the thing that maybe makes you a little bit nervous, that doesn't make you feel as secure as when like you're sure of that thing, so I can do this. Like, you can tie your shoes, you can brush your teeth, I can read the cards, even though there's still a little bit of, sometimes there's a bit of anxiety with that. There used to be more so than now, but for the most part now it's like, what are we gonna say today, Spirit? Let's go, you know what I mean? But when I have to actually speak from the heart and I'm not able to formulate my thoughts in, a more structured way, that is a little bit more anxiety inducing. And perhaps back to the relationship piece, having been single for so long, the true test of my readiness of partnership probably won't be until I'm actually in the relationship. There's probably going to be so much more about myself that comes up that I wasn't even aware of to consider, and maybe even to confront, when I'm actually in a union with someone that can hold me accountable, that can be my mirror image, that may even trigger me in some ways that I thought I had released, or empower me. It works all ways, but the point that I'm saying is that you won't even really know until, you won't really know that, you could say there's a readiness there, but the test is really the experience itself, and I feel like that's the case with everything that we're embarking upon right now. We've had all the plans and structure and visions, visualizations so clear that it almost feels real right in front of your face. And then when it becomes real, then is, who are you? Who do you get to be? How do you respond? How do you react? So maybe perhaps this is the readiness, that if it were in front of you right now, whatever that thing is in the material sense, materially in the midst of that experience, would you lend yourself to the vulnerability, the intimacy of that experience? Would you allow yourself to be in it, to live in it? Whether it be a relationship, a new business, a new place to live, and more money, calling that in, and now you have it. Now what do you do with it? Kids, if you don't have any, or more kids if you already have some, a bigger house, a fancier car, multiple business collaborations, your product line is expanding. The reality of it is that expansion is most certainly happening in every way, shape, and form from the inside out. It's just time. It's just time for it. No matter what the outside appears to be, the soil is primed and ready for the harvest to spring forth, and it's happening seemingly suddenly, but only because we've been used to cultivating for so long, and putting on the farmer's gear. But now that the harvest is here, it's like a whole nother responsibility, and accountability to actually collect that crop. And then there's then the expectation that you're going to continue to harvest beyond that moment. Consider a relationship like it's just not a one and done deal. There's the idea, if we're talking about marriage, for an extended time, if not forever. So yeah, this was definitely an interesting one for me, and maybe it speaks to something that you're intimately connected to at this time, that you're in the midst of, or it's in the midst of springing forth in you. And I guess now is the moment for you to really, when you knowing that the harvest is here, that you prepare yourself to really fully receive the magnitude and magnificence of what you've created. As if I haven't really said that enough. I'm trying to find a better way to express, because it's the intimacy, I almost said it too, intimacy, right? Intimacy piece that is blaring out the most for me, because just as uncomfortable as it's been to kind of just express myself this way in this moment, because I didn't really feel certain of what I was coming to talk about, is as uncomfortable as this next season may project itself to be. Not really, though, because it's everything that you've been wanting, but because of those conditionings that we have to want to be more in control and to have it all figured out and to dot all your I's and cross all your T's. That's the part that can pose itself to be intimidating, because it's something that's not really well within your control, and I feel like that's what this next season of energetic force is bringing. It's like you're going to have to kind of like try it out, you're going to have to allow yourself to be before you actually can see. And sometimes that's not the most comfortable for us human beings, to do. And in that regard, to the point of the reader that I spoke about, that's one thing I would say, that it is important to cultivate that ideal, that intention within yourself to kind of be with the experience before you try to control it, or even project what it ought to be or ought to look like in any particular way. Or in any definite way, I should say, without there being space for a change or expansion, because that would be the thing that would ultimately make you resist the experience for the fear of not having total control over it itself, if that makes sense. So there, as I said, it was no disrespect to him. It was more so how I received it than anything, which I guess is even the point of what I'm making now, of when you're hearing certain things and how it triggers you, or what energy it dredges up to the surface, to really consider what's being said and what you're receiving, and the synergy in between it all, and how you can take that intel and put it to work in a productive way, like make it a seed, or throw it away if it doesn't apply at all, but make it a seed for you to actually harvest something of value. And if there was anything, it was the idea of control, like wanting to be in control of everything and almost having too much of a barrier, or not a barrier, but like to almost being too guarded to be in a space of, what do we call it? Compromise, because you've been alone or you've been doing it one way for so long. You've had an idea of what it should look like, all thought out and mapped out, and now here it is, and it's like, well, wait a minute, it doesn't fit into like that containment that I spoke of. So maybe allowing yourself to be more open to how you get to be within it, with him, with her, with they, however it plays out, and vice versa, is perhaps the most important piece to the allowance of the experience of creativity rather than the control of it altogether is what's most important. And then keeping those projections at bay that don't truly apply to plant good seed into your good soil, because you've done the work to cultivate yourself ready to harvest, ready to sow, always ready to learn. It's not like we're never ready to sow new seeds, but anything that projects to you at this point in time that you still got a long way to go, like Cassie. Is it Cassie or Cassidy? Cassie. And I like that song too. But you may want to consider it, really consider that ideal and make sure that it's not first a projection or just an awakening of some other way to perceive your presence at this time, which is how I'm receiving it from me. So intimacy is key, being open to being vulnerable, even unto the spirit and how it wants to express itself through you and to you above everything before it even becomes a carnal or physical exchange, right? But yeah, and if there's one thing that can definitely induce anxiety is certainly intimacy, no matter who you are, because one of the things we're most protective of is our own energy. Even the most vibrant soul out there that, loves attention and loves to express themselves freely, there's still always some small part of you or part of them or part of me or part of us that we protect very closely. And perhaps that's exactly the aspect that the spirit wants to break free, to expose to us, Scorpio season, 8th house, to expose to us, let alone to have us express one to another, or perhaps even beyond that publicly, so that others can be encouraged to just be spiritual exhibitionists in some regards, so that there's no dark space where the spirit can hide, and so therefore there's no place for judgment, shame, guilt, or any of that, any of those low vibrational energies to fester. And then, and only then, will we all be free to be in some utopian universe. Perhaps not as far away as it may seem. So anyway, I'm gonna have to post this because I don't intend to have any other message today. So if you got anything out of this, I do appreciate you for listening and for watching. And you can share in the comments if you feel guided to, for sure. But most importantly, I hope that there was something of value that you could glean from this expression today. So thank you again for listening. Happy Sunday to you. Continue to enjoy your Sunday and have a powerful, prosperous start of the week. All right, until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.